Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Dr. Rainier for inviting us to host Ernest Hilbert's closing meeting for his residency, Fall 2023 Poetry Residency here at Westchester University. And so I'm going to read the introduction. It is my great honor to introduce Dr. Ernest Hilbert, a longstanding member of the Westchester University poetry community. Dr. Hilbert is our Fall 2023 Poet in Residence and judge of the Spencer Awards. Born in Philadelphia and raised in South Jersey, Hilbert is a true Renaissance man, an inventor of poetic forms, a librettist, and an antiquarian book dealer, cultural and literary critic, and an award-winning poet. He's the author of 60 Sonnets, published in 2009, All of You on the Good Earth, published in 2013, Caliguin, published in 2017, and winner of the Poets Prize, Last One Out, published in 2019, and Storm Swimmer, which was chosen by Rowan Ricardo Phillips as the winner of the 2022 Vassar Miller Prize. A self-described independent poet scholar, Hilbert earned his doctorate in English language and literature from Oxford University. As indicated in his biography, he is a book critic for the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and Fine Books and Collections. His poem, Mars Ultor, was included in Best American Poetry 2018, and his poems appear in Yale Review, American Poetry Review, Baum, Harvard Review, Parnassus, Swan Review, Hudson Review, Boston Review, New Republic, American Scholar, and the London Review. In 2023, he was awarded the Mehringolf Writing Award for Poetry from the Association of Literary Scholars, Critics, and Writers. Rowan Ricardo Phillips argues that Ernest Hilbert's Storm Swimmer is, and I quote, a rare book, both willing and able to capture the wide and relentless range of the human condition in its varying lights and shadows and settings spanning the mundane, the tawdry, and the sublime. Storm Swimmer is a book of great feeling and of great technical skill. Everything in it is sacrificed for poetry, which is why everything in this beautiful book lives. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ernest Hilbert to our stage. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that up there. Move it out of here, but I'll just leave it. Where should I?
Is this, you can leave that there.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not, is this because the YouTube stream?
Yeah,
Okay. That might have done something.
it just took the power off. It's okay, that might have done
that all?
something. Yeah, that's all.
Hello, thank you all for being here. I know it's the beginning of the week of Thanksgiving. Many people have already fled, and I'm glad to have you all here. So my name is Ernest Hilbert. This is the end of a 2-week, very busy residency I've had here at Westchester University. It's been wonderful. Most of that time I have been talking about music or rare book history or poetry and creative writing. The book I've been reading from primarily is my most recent one, Storm Swimmer. But I thought, is there any chance we can get a bottle of water? Sorry, I was promised water. So I thought I'd read a few selections from all 5 of my books, and then end with Storm Swimmer. So Dr. Pollard mentioned my first book being 60 Sonnets. This came out in 2009. The first poem I'm going to read is called Mirage, and that refers to the phenomenon one might experience in a desert of seeing something that seems solid, but it is not actually there. It may exist somewhere else. It may be reflected off of clouds. So it actually is an image of something that is real, but it's just not there. And it's, I hope my mom is not tuning into this, but if you are, hi Mom. So this is something that, this poem appeared in an anthology called the Swallow Anthology of New American Poets, and I gave a nice copy of the hardcover to my mom. I inscribed it to her. And this poem was in it. And I was visiting, and when I got home, she had already written an email to me saying, well, I'm really sorry you see things that way. And I thought, I didn't mean it that way, Mom. It's just a memory, and it's about the way that as close as we may be to people who are a different generation from us, there really is a distance there that is in some ways insurmountable. So this is called Mirage, and it is a sonnet, of course. Once, when I was young, an odd thing occurred. I found myself in trouble for some stunt, some selfish offense forgotten since then. For a time, my mother's smile was deferred, and I learned it was something I would want to get back so I could feel fine again. For a brief but blurred flash from the top stair, I thought she smiled at me. What a relief! I smiled back, but she scowled. What went wrong? I grew confused. I was struck, standing there. What slipped in my reckless reach for reprieve? I grasped a mirage, unreal as a song. I was shocked by the sheer drop from assurance, the vast span that parts us from our parents. Thank you, Cherise. The next poem is called Song. A song for those who learn forgotten, slow skills. Crafts submerged, long past, by mass commerce. By hard, dark, oily machines and the din of duplicates, shipped by the millions, stowed in cavernous depots to be dispersed to each home, used once, and then binned. This is for those who weave by hand, who brew their own suds and roll their own smokes, hammer together shelves, print on presses, plant gardens in vacant lots, raise beams, fire pots. The few who challenge the swift, transient tenor of the age. The lonely, sincere wardens. The last noble pull of old ways restored. Valued and unwanted. Admired and ignored. The second book is All of You on the Good Earth, and I was casting about in my office before coming out. This was the only copy I could find, which I realized is one I purchased used when I saw it, and it's just filled with notes. Like every page, someone had written all over it. And some of these are really interesting things. Others, I can't believe they wrote those things. And then one of my coworkers, when it first came in, took a pencil and wrote, "This guy is a loser." And I thought that was something written by the original person. It wasn't. He was just busting on me. So this is a poem that's about having too many books. I don't know if many people do anymore, but I have far too many books. My wife is not pleased by this, and we still argue a bit about this, but I mean, they're mostly on shelves. There's just lots of shelves. This is called Cover to Cover. And the epigraph is from Walter Benjamin, the cultural critic. He wrote, "Every passion borders on the chaotic, but the collector's passion borders on the chaos of memories. I don't collect them. They just accumulate, tower higher into shoddy columns, climbing weirdly like crystal formations or pillars of coral. The thought of their weight crushes. Their coarse traffic of wars I've thumbed through, their long summers and snow. They weigh tons. They slide onto the stove, under the fridge, into the tub. They prop open windows. They serve as coasters. They have traveled with me and slept beside me. They fashion a bridge, to vanished rooms, sorrows, and suns. Lord knows why I haul them from city to city. I slip them together like bricks. They become a wall. My greed, my fears, everything, nothing at all. So whoever owned this book underlined the plural third person pronoun they over and over again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, they, and then wrote, what is they? It's the books, I guess. I can't believe I didn't make that clearer. I guess I should have just put it in the first sentence. This is a poem that I wrote as an epithalamium for some people I knew who were getting married. That's from the Latin. Epithalamium, epi means outside of, like epidermis, your skin. Epithalamium means outside the marriage chamber. Another type of wedding poem is the prothalamium, which is proceeding from that chamber. So this is one you do sort of at the wedding before the ceremony. It's called Why Must We Love? Why must we love? Perhaps as Plato thought, Zeus hacked jealous man into 2 parts, so we struggle our whole lives to reunite. Or Shakespeare's lovers, struck through with stars, caught in a love that promises doom, who find their hearts seared like coals and drown them in endless night. But this is too much for us. We are not useful myths, nor mere characters undone on a stage. Yet our 2 strengths are as great as these, and other stories were taught. Planets, trained eternally around one sun, on looped orbits. 2 distinct but linked mates, lit by the same light, drawn by the same force that formed us all and keeps us in its course. So those books are made up entirely of sonnets, and then the books that came after contain poems that are a bit longer, some even shorter than sonnets, but generally contain 1 or 2 sonnets. But I was trying to move away from that because people kept calling me a sonneteer and things like that. I thought it was typecasting. So the third book is called Caligulin, and I will read 2 poems from this as well. So you'll hear that they sound quite different from these shorter, I hope more pithy, argument-oriented ones. The first is called For Lynn at Lake Nakamixon. Gunshots go off in threes somewhere across the water. Unreal as stage-side thunder, they still sound another unwelcome signal to remind us of new loss on an otherwise quiet day. We wander through 1,000 pines lately succumbed to wind or water, pressed flat on the hill like grass on which a body lay. Shallow root beds pulled up. They've become frilled flowers caked ghostly with crumbling white earth. The tranquil sounds of the lake are like sleep, and fallow as the fields we sit for what feels like hours in an old duck blind, at ease on thatched thrones of straw and soil, flattering ourselves we're simple as the whistle of wind and waves that bring songs as they discard themselves onto stones. Deer panicked last night in the cold scalpel of our headlights, swiftly disappearing. Like them, we were startled, and we were lost. Half of them are dead by now, 1 day on. The others driven away. The partnered shrieks of blue jays in the bare trees accosted us in the forbidding December dawn, alarming us from troubled sleep like creaks of doors not opened in years. Harsh cries, not anarchic, but made to mimic hawks, even mock simple human sentences, counterpoint, crescendo, coda, reprise. At the fortress dam, we step onto the docks. So many starlings in the trees, they crowd our senses till there is nothing else. A lonely melody escapes the multitudinous ferment, then blends into the din again. Lone, but never unaccompanied, or only a trick of our ears. And what it meant, or might have meant, is just as quickly flown. We work our way along the barren shore, hiking through thorns to a flooded quarry. A northern harrier floats high overhead, a moat in winter clouds, making her kingdom. We below must learn ways to speak, to design, serve, and remember. Each of us, no more than a conduit of kindness and crime, worry and wish. The hawk's beauty seems almost a sign that nothing kills more than it creates, or is wrong with what we finally become. The unpredictable sun surges and fades through quickening clouds. Trees lean and then resume their full heights, briefly freed from the impatient wind's unending urges. We recline on the sloping meadow, difficult mates, watching the light change, watching it recede on the black water below, where unseen silver carp and the deeper catfish feed. We await the hawk's eventual descent, a small portion of the world's endless hunt and hunger. How is it we can go through our lives without being routed or sent to madness, wild with all we want, and filled to vastness with all we view? We hear the far guns go off again, their echoes growing louder on the lake. The hawk drops until she's lost from sight. Though reluctant to leave the glen, we stand, wipe dirt from our hands, and start to make our way, but linger to behold another flight. Gangs of brittle sycamore leaves, buoyant forms sharp at their margins, stir in wind, urge and yield like big flocks of birds, borne aloft as one on sustaining currents, go up in restless swarms, rising, and our eyes follow them, and we shield our faces and wince as they enter the sun. The next poem is called In School Suspension. I don't know if that exists anymore in high school. Anyone tell me? Do they do that anymore? In School Suspension. There's also the Breakfast Club Saturday morning. That wasn't fun. Stop at the Wawa beforehand and get breakfast. This is called In School Suspension. We sweated and dozed like barbarians in a deer hide tent at the height of spring's roasting heat, crowded in for various affronts, crimes, and faults. When one among us was handed from the disciplinarian's office a pink paper slip listing things he'd done that were deemed truly nefarious, to us hilarious, and saying he was expelled altogether from school, he heaved the heavy 1950s stapler from our minder's desk and hammered the paper to his head. The first two staples rebounded and clicked on the tiles. We were almost relieved when the third clinched, pressed deeper by his thumb, and seized subcutaneous hold. This caper did it. We were for once, astounded. With the form draped over one eye, he smiled for us, turning slowly in the humidity, a satanic clown. Our own Spartacus for a sparkling second, we won't forget. We roared and roared in our hot galley, piled up laughs till they hid any stab of pity. We all knew he wouldn't even be missed, as, clutched by the wrist, he loosed one last threat and was hauled from the room, and the door boomed shut. We never saw him again. One by one, we turned our faces downward and resumed, with the dust he'd raised, churning in the sun. And then moving to the fourth book, this is called Last One Out. And this came out in 2017, I think. We'll do two poems from this one. The first poem in the book is called Welcome to All the Pleasures. Because the book begins with memories of my father and my grandfather, and it ends with the anticipation of the arrival of my son, and then poems of him when he was very, very young. But this begins the book. It is called Welcome to All the Pleasures. The wind was wasp and pollen, charred pork and dragonfly. My grandfather, German with shoulders of granite, of beer and blue skies, blast furnaces, grew impatient when he learned that at 4, I'd still not learned to swim. He hoisted me in summer air, spun me out over the sluggish murk and let go. I swear the river had no bottom. I smacked the sun-fierce surface with a sharp, cold crash. Then silence and stunned slowness. I finned and swung, hung between what glows above and what pulls below. And then a poem from the final section of the book is called Super Bowl Sunday. And this is about when my son was not even more than maybe just 2-3 months old. And he smiled for the first time. He was trying, because you can't smile when you're firstborn. You just kind of like, oh, you can't do anything. We don't remember this mercifully. But he was imitating my smile. He was learning to smile. And he has a wonderful smile. But this was the very first time he smiled. It's called Super Bowl Sunday. On the blue couch, the brown tabby cat curls content as a dragon on its hoard. He claws lazily at a drift of junk mail, then lolls back on a lopsided pillow. Beside him, I hold you, not yet one. You stretch, cheep like a finch, burble, and plop open your wet mouth like a koi lapping at a leaf on a lake. Squirrels skitter and startle each other outside. You squirm on my lap this late, sunny Sunday in a cold month. This is enough. We abide. I'm reading a wife's memoir of her husband, a poet as sentimental as I, as foolish and as easily made up of failures, sometimes as stupidly happy. Don Giovanni roars, cast down into the depths of the black stereo. Soon the great game will commence. Towering champions created to win will strut to their positions and pose, burnished, armored in emblems. Lenses will zag and pan as the colors crash and tumble, all in a triumphal heap. Already the light is leaving, and windows brighten across the street. In the edging dark, unsure, you imitate my smile in miniature. You're first, not long held, but you will try again. The world is deep with unwon battles, merciless and uncertain as our memories. I rise, cradling you, my son, carefully like a football in one arm as you yawn. Grope with my free hand for the switch. Your aquatic eyes give back the last of the light. In a moment, I myself seem slight and alive, restless and agile. The reckless lengths I ran so long ago, no longer gone. So long ago, that day, when, like you, in lightning and rivers, I began. And I will read finally just two poems from Storm Swimmer. Ones I have not yet had occasion to read here lately in the last 2 weeks. So this one's called Stronghold. Christmas is picked clean. Only balsam resin streaked on the jam, a glint of tinsel. For Christ's sake, it's hardly even 7 in the morning, and sirens peal in Doppler down the embankment below. My blinds are drawn against the muddy dawn. I don't want to look, don't even want to know who it is or what the hell's going on. Wherever it is, he's at it pretty early. I know he's probably been up all night, or for a few days and nights. Surely he's had a good time. He puts up a fight. I wonder if he'll get away. I'd like to stretch like a lion across the bed all day, but I hear my young son's awake. Our home is messy, warm, twice bolted. My heir to these creaking halls of dusty air, black bells of heavy clouds looming above, carefully stepping down from stair to stair. I haven't got a thing to give but love. And the last poem I'm going to read is In Salt Meadows. Thank you all for your patience in listening to me. I know you didn't really have much of a choice, but I appreciate it anyway. I want you to know that. And then I guess you'll decide what happens next, right? Or somebody will. Okay. In Salt Meadows. So down the Jersey Shore, on the bay side across from Great Bay, which separates the mainland from Long Beach Island, there's an unmarked dirt road that goes off, that if you go up it, you'll come across something called the Lonely Grave of Mud Island, where someone died drag racing there long ago. And so there's this big homemade grave that's decorated and people leave things there. But if you keep going, you'll reach something called the Bridge to Nowhere, which is actually a bridge that they started and then stopped. And so it doesn't actually go anywhere. It goes out over the water and then stops. And so you're down in Salt Meadow when you're down there. And when the sun goes down, it's really strikingly beautiful. And so I wrote this poem, which is called In Salt Meadows. Blood arc and aster, gale-flattened bulrush, purple loosestrife, stargazer, and coffin box, summer airstream, arrowworm, and oyster catcher. Father Sunset, while we stay here, sing us that song. Your sons, brittle star, surf, and firethorn bush, conifers and carp, catfish, speck of hawk, bog rot, grub, great-tailed grackle, egg snatcher, sudden damselfly, bull shark, sturgeon, tooth and prong. Your daughters deadly too, sedge and sea rocket, raccoon. Last of sun igniting runnels, lava flow to bay, swollen with sponge, mosquito, and mudfish. Sing of sorrows, ciphers, corals and crows, ghost crab, nettle, anemone, moist moon bloomed to mushroom cap, glasswort, silvery minnow, rainwater coarse with salt, mixed like a wish, the stories we survive, salt grass and swamp rose. Thank you.
Before I thank everyone, does anyone have any questions for Dr. Hilbert? Comments, questions?
I'm going to say good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay.
Have any of you ever been to a poetry reading before? So you probably didn't know what to expect. Grace?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Well, and I think that
I never know what to expect.
I never know what to expect. Right, do you want to take your water? Yeah. And I think that that is important. It's important to understand like how poetry reading works, and I hope that you've enjoyed your time with us, and we've certainly enjoyed hosting Dr. Hilbert for his residency. And I want to thank Dr. Rainier and the whole College of Arts and Humanities team, CARU first year experience team, for encouraging you all to join us here today. So I'm going to read my closing comments. Thank you, Dr. Hilbert, for that insightful and powerful reading. And so now we'll go. I was going to say we have books to sell this afternoon. So if you're interested in buying a book as a gift for a friend or for yourself, we have books. And before I do that, I would like to thank our Poetry Center crew and the associated teams and councils that support our programming. I want to start with the team from the College of Arts and Humanities, and our Poetry Center intern, Emma Dwyer, and Cindy Pilla, the Poetry Center's administrative liaison, handles all of the intricate details that go into making these events go smoothly. And I'm grateful for the encouragement of the CARU Assistant Dean, Janine Minjay, and our Dean, Jen Bacon. The Poetry Center is also grateful for the support of WCU's president, Dr. Fiorentino. The Poetry Center is guided by two very important councils, the Faculty Advisory Council, co-chaired by myself and my colleague in English, Nancy Pearson, and our membership across the College of Arts and Humanities. And the Poetry Center Advisory Council, who is sort of our advisory board outside of the university, and that is co-chaired by Mr. Keene Spencer. My colleagues in the Department of English, especially the chair, Michael Burns, and our administrator, Sarah Paler, and the director of graduate studies, Justin Rademakers, have been so very grateful, very helpful when it comes to promoting our programming. We invite you to join us for our future Poetry Center programs. We look forward to welcoming the iconic poet Sonia Sanchez as our spring reader in late February, March 2024, and the dynamic Patricia Smith will be our keynote speaker for our Craft Fest in April. So we hope that you'll join us for our in-person and virtual programs. And so we thank Dr. Hilbert, and we thank you. Have a great evening and happy Thanksgiving. Do you have anything else? And we thank you, though, all on YouTube for joining us, too. Thank you for taking the time out of
See you all next
your
week.
busy day.
Thank you.
And we officially end the stream.